Hey, welcome to another weekly update. With Uber's IPO coming out, I wanted to talk about whether it might be a good pick or not. So if we look around, ride sharing is everywhere, food delivery is everywhere. In Australia, Uber controls a large swath of both of these markets. If we look on a global scale, Uber has a dominant position in most of these markets as well. All the red circles that you can see represent a major share that Uber holds in ride sharing. All the yellow circles represent a minor share that they hold. There's also a couple of people that have made a lot of money on Uber so far. Maybe one you haven't heard is Lance Armstrong, the 7-time Tour de France champion who admitted to taking performance-enhancing drugs. Lance lost his lucrative sponsorship deals after telling the world in an interview with Oprah of his fraud. He also ended up having to pay millions in fines. Uber was the one investment that saved Lance though. It saved his family, he would later say. What happened was he gave $100,000 to venture capitalist Chris Sarka, and he was an early investor in Uber and the alike. So from the $100,000 that Lance gave to Chris Sarka, his investment today is sitting at about 20 million after fees. So it's a nice little 200x gain for the disgraced champion. But this is probably not how you're going to make money on the stock. Uber said they'll list this year. Of course, there'll be the pundits talking about how they can squeeze more gains out of this new economy stock. Clearly, the company has massive volumes. Their growth has been incredible over the last few years. Just imagine what the next few years will be like. This is what I expect the investment bankers will be telling us when they're trying to sell Uber stock into the market. So who doesn't want to jump on this, the world's most valuable startup? It could be the next big thing they're all saying. I, on the other hand, don't believe Uber will be the next big thing. I think they'll be one of the biggest investment flops of my lifetime. There's a couple of reasons why. First, let's look at their performance, so their investment performance. Uber is all over the place right now. Sure, this is a profitable company, but that's not the reality. Uber is not a profit machine. While also being the world's most valuable startup, they also spend more money than any other startup. If you take a look at Uber's fourth quarter results, you can see bookings climbing, yet profits are going nowhere. Again, this is because they're spending so much money. Some of this money is going towards new projects like electric scooters or driverless cars. A large chunk of this money is actually going towards subsidizing these rides. So Uber competes with a whole bunch of other competitors like Lyft or Didi over in China, and they would compete with far more if prices were higher. So I've seen figures like $1.15 for each kilometer for an Uber ride. This $1.15 not only has to cover the Uber driver's fees, it has to cover the technology of the app, it also has to cover everyone at headquarters who are coming up with more new ways to spend more money. So you can only stretch this $1.15 so far. The rest has to be paid out of Uber's pocket. Don't expect prices to rise anytime soon. If they do, profits could emerge and then the ride-hailing market could be bombarded with even more competition. So Uber will continue to keep their fares low and pay out the difference out of their own pocket. So I don't believe this stock is a new economy stock. I think it's just another taxi company. And instead of calling up to and paying cash for a taxi, all you're doing is doing it through an app. So doing all this through an app, how valuable is that? Is that valuable when people can just copy that model and roll it out? Is it really worth $120 billion, which a lot of people think it might be? I don't think so, on the other hand. What's worse is how Uber is destroying the supply and demand dynamic of the taxi market. So it used to be that taxis and chauffeur services, they had licenses to pick up people and drive them around. No one else could do this. It was a regulated market. It prevented too many drivers from jumping in and lowering fares. Uber has basically destroyed this market. Now anyone can be a driver. It's like a commodity almost, too much supply, and all these driving fares are just being driven down to rock bottom. So with such cheap fares, Uber needs to do massive volumes with such low prices to become profitable, but these volumes have done almost nothing so far because competitors are doing the same as Uber. They're competing for this unprofitable growth. They're paying for these fares, they're subsidizing for these fares out of their own pocket. So I've said their money a couple of times. This is actually not Uber's money. This is money that investors and debtors have entrusted to Uber to yield some sort of return. So sooner or later, Uber will have to start making money. They can't just burn through cash forever. Two ways they could do that. They could profit through either increasing prices or they could cut costs. So I think I've made the point of why Uber can't raise prices. So what about lowering costs? How are they going to do that? Well, one way Uber could think about doing this is to get rid of drivers. So instead of drivers, they could roll out driverless Uber vehicles. The problem with this is it's another cash drain on the business. Uber will have to spend likely billions of dollars to create this technology. And they're already far behind the pack when it comes to driverless technology. The best estimate for Uberless driverless cars, just the technology, not driverless cars on the roads, might be 5 years behind Google's Waymo when they actually break through to get true driverless technology out. So you can see Uber is in this extremely difficult position. They can't grow their business. If they do, they grow unprofitably. Or they invest into these growth markets like electric scooters or driverless cars. The latter might just turn out to be as profitable as as unprofitable as the former, because there'll just be intense price competition. Prices will go down because there's just too much supply. Uber will end up being in the same spot that they are right now. So without some kind of advantage, I think Uber will just be like every other commodity business. The price will rule and profits will be extremely meager. So even though Lance made millions on this new economy stock, I think your chances are extremely slim. The company doesn't have a competitive advantage. Their growth is unsustainable. I just think it's best to steer clear of this one. Thanks.
Remember to like and subscribe below if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more future weekly updates.